The Polaroid Now Plus is a camera I wanted to love, but much like a bridge in Lethal Company, I'm gonna be with you in spirit. I just can't trust it. To be totally fair, it is a camera that does some things really right, but it absolutely fails at some of the most critically important aspects of photography. You know, like, exposure!
Huh? What the f is this piece of shit?
In the almost 3 years I've had this camera, what is happening? How has it been 3 years? In the almost 3 years, generally speaking, you're working with like 50-50 odds of whether or not you're gonna get a good shot. And at almost $20 for a pack of 8 photos, ooh baby, those are not the odds you want to hear. Now, full transparency here, I have gotten photos that I'm happy with from this camera. Hell, I've gotten shots that I love, but for every one of these, there's also one of these.
What the hell is even that?
This is one of those cases where, contrary to the gurus of YouTube photography, yes indeed, gear does in fact matter. So step right up, ladies and gents, and flip a coin, because you never know what's gonna walk through those rollers. Now Plus is supposedly the upgraded version of the Polaroid Now. I actually really love the Polaroid Now. I got some of my best modern Polaroid results on that camera. Out of all the recent Polaroid cameras I've used, I believe the Polaroid Now has the best onboard light meter. Bear in mind, I haven't used the eye too much, it's way too expensive and I'm not trying to buy one. If you're looking for the straight out of the box point and shoot experience, look no further than the Polaroid Now. It's cheaper, it's the same body, and it's much more reliable. With all the creative features and manual controls, the Now Plus seems to be geared more towards intermediate and advanced users. Really glad the names are so damn similar, I'm sure that won't confuse anyone. The Now Plus looks very similar to the Now with a few changes. Side by side, you can barely tell them apart. On the body itself, you now have the plus button, which allows you to connect to your phone via Bluetooth. We'll talk more about that later on. It also has a tripod socket for long exposures. It comes with a bunch of cool lens filters. I have a video that does a deep dive on what each of these filters do, so I'm not going to rehash that here. But a quick rundown, you get a starburst filter, a red vignette, orange, yellow, and blue. These filters will have an impact on your color and black and white photos. And they kind of sort of fit onto the previous modern Polaroids like the Now and the One Step Plus. They're a little bit loose, but gaff tape it on and you're fine. In terms of other differences between the Now Plus and the older model, it's blue now.
Why are you blue?
It comes in around $140, which is a bit more than the Polaroid Now. The price would be justified if the camera was good. But probably the biggest new thing in the Now Plus, besides the Bluetooth features, is its crappy, inaccurate light meter. The exposure issues and metering issues. Let's dive into it. Exposure is critical in the world of photography, especially when it comes to film. Exposure can literally make or break your photo. And I really need to stress this again. In an environment where you're paying almost $20 for a pack of 8 exposures, you'd hope that you wouldn't really need to worry about that reliability. But in the magical land of Polaroid Now Plus, you need to worry about both the reliability of the camera and the film.
Oh, good.
For those of you who might be new to photography, a light meter is just what it sounds like. It's a device that measures light. On the Now Plus, the light meter reads the scene and informs the camera of what shutter speed and aperture settings it should use in order to properly expose the photos. And if your camera's light meter is inaccurate, well, you get shots like these.
Ew.
I have extensively tested the Polaroid Now Plus's exposure issues. I have a whole video about it. Generally speaking, I found it to make reasonable decisions with the flash indoors. The biggest exposure issues I encountered at that time was when I involved the app in the equation. That's when my Now Plus started acting like me after 6 Superbox and started making poor life choices. I made that video quite a while ago, and over time, it seems like my Now Plus started making worse and worse exposure decisions. I noticed the issues really started ticking up about 6 to 8 months into owning the camera. It's inexplicable. The overexposure issues seem to particularly be an issue outdoors on bright sunny days. No big deal, it's just the best possible conditions to shoot Polaroids in. So I reached out to Polaroid. In the defense of Polaroid, that's a weird sentence for me to say, their customer support was great. They got back to me quickly and sent over a new Polaroid Now Plus with a few packs of film. Though I did mention this channel in our correspondence, which may have played a role in how speedy and amiable they were.
I don't know.
But unfortunately, the brand new Now Plus behaved essentially the same way. Poor exposure choices outdoors, reasonably good ones indoors with the flash. I should also mention at this point in the video that there's now a Gen 2 Polaroid Now Plus, and as far as I understand, literally the only difference is the charging port, which is now USB-C. But all of my testing has been on the Gen 1 Polaroid Now Plus. At the time, Just Another Chris was tinfoil hatting Gen 2, saying that they were going to stealth update the light meter, but much to the dismay of everyone, that was not the case. And even more unfortunately, to my knowledge, there's no way to firmware update these cameras, which is honestly crazy considering you can connect it to your phone. But let's give the Now Plus one last chance, one last exposure test before I throw this thing into the blood swamps and let the cyber demons have it. Here's a quick comparison of using just the camera alone versus connecting it to the app. It seems like the app wants to overexpose more than just using the camera alone, which is pretty consistent with my previous testing on the old camera.
Damn it, how could this have happened?
The flash is an odd beast. If you're too far away from your subject, it can be pretty underwhelming and not super powerful. But if you're too close, it's kinda like nuclear. And this has been a low-grade irritant for the last several Polaroid cameras, but the Now Plus doesn't remember your flash override setting, meaning if you turn the flash off after taking the shot, the flash will just turn back on immediately. Let's talk about the biggest new feature of the Now Plus, this plus button. Tapping it allows you to connect your phone via Bluetooth. This unlocks a massive amount of creative control, from long exposures to a self-timer, double exposures, light painting, all that fun stuff. And credit where credit is due, the Bluetooth pairing is absolutely seamless in my experience. It's vastly improved from back in the day with the One Step Plus. Many of these features actually are available in camera through different shortcuts. A single tap of the flash button will turn the flash on and off, but a long press will enable exposure compensation. You can double tap the plus button for double exposures. The reason I bring that up is because some of you might be like me. I don't really like connecting my phone to this thing. When I shoot film, my aim is to enjoy the process. I love shooting film. And when I do, my aim is to be present and not fucking around with my phone. While the Bluetooth enables a ton of creative control, the standard user of a Polaroid camera probably wants to take it out of the box and shoot with it. This is one of Polaroid's two big dilemmas. The other is the film, but we'll get to that. But let's take the mindset behind the phone connection aside. I actually do think these creative controls are cool. The tripod and manual modes unlock the ability to shoot longer exposures. Finally! Gas station tones! Strangely though, the tripod mode actually meters differently than if you were to just follow the light meter in the manual mode. Not sure why. The light painting mode is sick. It actually lets you use your phone. You can just hold the button. There's a weird delay, but it turns on your flashlight and you can light paint. Here's Coheed and Cambria's logo. I tried to do the Straw Hat's Jolly Roger, but that did not come out very well. The portrait mode is a pain in the ass. For whatever reason, it just doesn't work right for me. Maybe it's a camera, maybe it's because I'm on Android, I don't know. The portrait mode acts just like it would on your phone. It tries to blur out the background and it tells you whether you're too far or too close to your subject. Remote mode allows you to set up your camera and fire off a shot from a distance, which let me take a few cool self-portraits. Double exposures are sick. They're a lot of fun. I took this really cool one that I actually love. It's probably one of my favorite self-portraits I've ever done. Some of the people in my Discord couldn't see me, so I crudely traced myself with Microsoft Paint. There I am. All of these options are a ton of fun to mess around with. But for me, it's difficult to embrace that fun and mess around and experiment when it's over $2 a shot. And then it becomes an even further gamble of whether or not the film will even work properly. And that beautiful seamless segue leads us into our most important point about Polaroid. It's still the film, stupid. For a little context, if you're new around here, I've actually been very vocal on my channel about Polaroid's need to prioritize the stability and consistency of their film. In the time I've been uploading videos on this channel, Polaroid has released the One Step 2, the One Step Plus, the Go, the Now Plus, and the i2. And they released multiple versions of those cameras too. In that same time period, we've gotten one new and improved iteration of the chemistry, and that's only for the black and white film, which in my experience always worked better than the color film anyway. Polaroid film is inconsistent. The temperature is such a huge factor in the development process. I have a video about that. To those of you who think this is all just one big skill issue, you are so right. Apologies that my alteration magica just isn't strong enough to modify the weather. If Portrait 800 straight up didn't work right during the summer, no one would give Kodak a pass. At the end of the day, you can grab any Polaroid camera, from the Go to the i2 to an SX70, it doesn't matter. You can still get bad results simply because of the inconsistency of the film. And you don't have to take my word for it, just check out what Polaroid says on their own website and social media. Their film and cameras aren't meant to be perfect. That i2 you paid $600 for? Imperfect. It's for the imperfectionists. So when it doesn't perform properly, remember that's a feature, not a bug. Here's a fun little anecdote. I recently posted a video about the new Polaroid black and white film chemistry, and I got a ton of comments and DMs DMs telling me to get rid of the Now Plus. That has never happened to me before. And on a channel where my photographic antics have included but not limited to developing instant film in a toaster, developing film with energy drink mix and gamer bath water, using Chinese knockoff Amazon cameras, and even committing the cardinal sin of calling it 120mm, I've never had so many people say, bro, what are you doing? The 5 below 35mm camera, the one that literally can't focus, hey, it said it was focus free, you know, they were being honest. That little piece of shit camera has more defenders in my comment section than the Polaroid Now Plus. If I had to sum up the Polaroid Now Plus in a single word, it would be unreliable. And I know this is a little late in the video to be mentioning this, but obviously this video is not sponsored. I have no allegiance to Polaroid. I just call cameras like I see them after using them, you know, for way too long and wasting way too much money on them. So buyer beware. If you're gonna spend your hard-earned money in this economy, carefully consider your needs. If you want a point and shoot Polaroid, the Now Plus ain't it. If you really want creative control to mess around, but you don't necessarily want to pay for the eye too, this camera might be right for you, provided you can work with the exposure issues. Overall, this is a camera I can't recommend to the masses. Let's throw it into the Owen Wilson rating system for old time's sake, and I'm giving the Polaroid Now Plus 3 Owen Wilson wows out of 10. Smash subscribe, hit like, alright, bye.
Like and subscribe. Sweet Loop Photography. Dumb man.